World War II with her, I can have more fun with her. Let her have her hair down. Let her hair down. And I mean
How
that
do
both
you
figuratively and literally.
how do you create like dialogues, like great dialogues with her, like writing in terms of writing, like writing a script or anything like that? Because you know, yeah, she's a female, so like what could you do better with her?
Well,
Is it almost like Wonder Woman, like with the TV series, like with they like in the beginning they was kind of like they focused like in 1940s, like World War II, and then they did to modern days.
well, see, I
Would
think
you
it was a
say
mistake for Wonder Woman to go outside of World War II. I thought that was bad.
yeah?
Um,
The
I, I,
series was trash. I mean, I like Linda Carter. You know, I like when she was Wonder Woman. But
well,
like
I like the series,
when you
but
watch
yeah,
it,
it
when
got
you watch it now, like it just kind of like, you know, I don't know.
well. Having it more modern day, let it be a little bit more cheesy and hokey, and they could
Yeah,
have kept. They could have kept it. They could have had it both be a little cheesy and silly at times, but then also they could have had more dramatic episodes if they kept it in World War II. Um, but like I said, the series is fine. It is a relic of the past. But my thing is when you're saying about writing the dialogue. So my co-writer writes most of the dialogue for me, um, and that's Philip Lawson. And he I because I'll just tell you the typical production of a typical script is I'll write the script. Uh, Depending on the artist, they'll have more detailed layouts, or no. Some artists I don't even do any layouts for. With like an artist like Alpha Dog, it doesn't behoove me to do too many layouts because his art style is so unique. He Even if you give him layouts, still going to do his own thing. And so only when necessary, and I have a great idea in my head, will I give him a layout. But even then, I try to shy away from it, so I let them do their own thing. But it again, it depends on the artist and the relationship that I have with the artist, um, and how detailed the layouts are. And then sometimes even it's just I tell the artist, I say, listen, I'm sorry I didn't have a lot of time, but I know you needed a script and you wanted to work, so here you go. And because, like I said, with George Garay, I might only do like 1/3 of layouts for him. But my whole thing is, I don't want to. You got to kind of know with the artist, because like with somebody with like Zanfander, I think I do the layouts for every single page that he does. And Draco Whip, I'll do probably the layouts for 80 to 90% of the pages, if not sometimes 100%, but not always. And the same thing with Lyman Dally too. I'll do the layouts for most of that stuff, except for there was one Miss Liberty. There are times where I tell him, and I know for a fact I said this on Miss Liberty Greek Battalion. I said, I can't figure out this page. I know exactly what I want to have happen on it. I can't figure out a good layout for you. So I said, please figure out a good layout for this. And so I write the scripts. I don't focus too much on the dialogue when I'm writing the scripts. That's not to say I don't focus on kind of the gist of what I want the characters to say and the reactions, because I'm writing the plot. So you kind of have to, know what's going on. And once I get that there, the artists then take it, they do their thing, they send me a rough draft, then I'll okay that, and I might ask for some changes, and then they'll send me a final draft. And very rarely do I ever have to ask for changes on the final draft. It can and does happen, but to be respectful for the artist, I try to keep it to only if it needs to have correction, because really in the rough draft form, you're supposed to try to iron those all out. And then once I have the final art, I then send it off to Philip, and I write basically a treatment for him to follow and I'll just say the tone of what I want to have, and then I'll go through page to page, kind of paraphrasing what, in case it's not apparent, what's going on. And sometimes I will give him very specific dialogue, and very specific jokes. And then sometimes I'll say, I think there's a joke about two heads being better than one here, or, something like that. I think there's a joke about X here. I just don't know what the joke is, but maybe we can get a joke like that. Maybe we can work that in. And to Philip's credit, he's amazing. He's amazing at the dialogue. And if I don't think something rings true, then, because he gives me the dialogue back then, and then I go through the pages and I approve them, and then we make changes. Sometimes there are complete and total rewrites for complete pages. Sometimes it's just a tweak. It depends on the comic. Sometimes there's no changes from the stuff that I tell them. And and so it's kind of a little bit about, so people out there know about Marvel Comics and the Marvel method for making comics. My style is very similar to the Marvel method, where we add the dialogue and all that stuff secondary. But like I said, I'm very proud of like the dialogue of like what we accomplished with it, and I really do think it benefits from the, to go back to the pun and the joke that I used before. Two heads are better than one, and I think that's thanks to, like I said, Steve and Phil were able to do good work together. Like I'll just say one thing, and this only will appeal to me, but I told them, I said, listen, in this lounge scene in Miss Liberty Love and War, which is one of my favorite comics I've ever written in my entire life, is the latest Miss Liberty story, Love and War. And I said, in the lounge scene, the dancing scene, so it's not a lounge scene, I'm sorry, it's a dance hall scene. I said, in the dance hall scene, I want the singer, I said, do you think we can have her just sing a few lines to the David Lee Roth song, Yankee Rose? And now again, I'm just going to say this, not that anybody out there listening will want to bust me and say, oh, now you got to pay for that. It's well within the creative rights issue, or the whatever rights that you can, because we only use a snippet of the dialogue. But I was just impressed at how he handled that, adding the snippet of a dialogue to there. And because, like I said, to me, when I want to get in the mood for writing Miss Liberty, I put on two songs. I put on David Lee Roth's Yankee Rose, and I just listen to it and think about what would be a good Miss Liberty story. And then I also put on, the second song I put on is Gary Moore's Out in the Fields. And so like I said, so that just really tickled me that I worked in the some lyrics to Yankee Rose in the recent Miss Liberty Love and War. And what, like I said, and I'm very proud of that story. Tonally, it's almost the perfect comic. I will say, yes, the one criticism that it could get, it does have romance and it does have love in it, and it does have a good amount of, the beefy cheesecake, or the beefcake, the cheesy beefcake. But I do want to do more Miss Liberty, like breaking the bed kind of humor. I've never really done that, and I'd like to do that with Miss Liberty a little bit, but tastefully, nothing too extreme.
Yeah, it just seemed like, it has potential of being animated, to be like it's some Adult Swim or something like that.
If they wanted to write me a check, yeah, I'd be interested in that. But I'll say realistically, I don't see that ever happening. It would be great if something like that happened. But I'm just saying, like, I'm 300 comics in at this point, and I'm 17 comics in with Miss Liberty, and I hope to be, my goal is, like, every year going forward that I'm living on this planet, I'd like to do about 2 to 4 Miss Liberty issues. This year, she got off on the wrong foot this year, but this whole year got off on the wrong foot for me. I felt like I was playing catch up this entire year with content. But with that being said, I am very pleased and proud of a lot of the content that I've released, because I do think I've released some really good stories. It's just like it's balancing Patreon and the monthly output to Shopify has been a tedious chore, and I get burnt out routinely from it, just because I'm not doing. I generally do about 3 comics a month for just Shopify, and then Patreon on top of that. I have written stories, and I have lots of mini comics, and then I have a monthly comic that basically every Monday you get 10 pages of what might be the ever-changing monthly comic. Well, it might not be 10 pages because, like, if Ritz is doing a comic or if the Muscle Girl fan's doing a comic, it could be less than that. But like I said, it's a lot of work. So, like, I mean, some months I do the equivalent of like 4 or 5 comics. But so yeah, like I started the year off on the wrong foot for Miss Liberty, so I feel like I'm still playing catch up. But I'll just say I'm working on this comic with the artist is called OK Comics, and the comics with an ICS, and I really like working with this artist. And we're about halfway through the next Miss Liberty story, and it's really good. This artist did the Marilyn Monroe. I'm sorry, for legal reasons, it's Marilyn Monroe and Jane Muscle's comic, Flexi Cabaret, I think that's what it was called, or I can't remember. But it's just Marilyn Monroe, who is a pastiche of a muscle-bound Marilyn Monroe,
I think
and
I've
Jane
seen
Muscle.
that.
Yeah, and Jane
a little
Muscle,
bit.
who is just the pastiche of a muscle-bound Jane Russell. And I love these 2 characters. I mostly love the Marilyn Monroe character most. And, I mean, I'll just say she's the top 5 character that I enjoy writing for. I have a lot of writings for her. I have some more writings that will be coming soon. But like I said, that artist who did that Flexi Sexy Cabaret is doing a Miss Liberty. And the early stuff that I've gotten for it is really damn good. It's going to be a fun Miss Liberty. And and it's funny how you said like Adult Swim animation. Like his style would probably be similar to what the Adult Swim animation style character designs would be.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Tick a little bit. Well, I don't know that comic, and it turned into a cartoon. It was like a parody of the Justice League type of thing.
Yeah, Ben. I'm going to get his name wrong, but it's like Edlund or Edlund, and he created the Tick. And I love the Tick, the original 1990s cartoon show. I don't love so much the Tick, the 2 live-action Tick shows. I actually prefer the first live-action Tick show, even though it was more Seinfeld with superheroes, with all the superheroing done off-screen. But I still enjoyed that, and actually, like I said, some of the tone has inspired me for some of my comics. I mean, when I started, I used to try to write more serious stories, which is funny because looking back at what I thought was serious at the time, I said, "You thought this was serious? You're writing smut, dude. You're writing silly, stupid, weird, cringeworthy things." But I mean, and again, I mean, I'm being harsh on myself, but like, because I do think some of my stuff has nice thought experiments and thoughts on the gender roles and norms, and just thoughts about masculinity, thoughts about femininity, and I do take a lot of pride in a lot of my comics, but there are some, really stupid comics out there. But I'll just say one of the things that just made me open my eyes is working with Jorge Garay. I call him George, but Jorge Garay, he does the big shots. He does the Not So Little Red, which we just came out with the 4th issue of Not So Little Red just last month. And I mean, I've done, out of all the artists I've worked with, I believe he's the one I've worked with the absolute most. And then I think it's Draco Whip after that, and then I don't even know who would come close. Zanfander is up on the list, but I don't think he's like the 3rd or 4th. He might be the 5th. But I mean, Zanfander was one of the first I worked with, but I went too long working with them because I was just stupid. And I wanted to find the perfect project to work with him again on, and the perfect project never materialized. And I said, "Fuck it, just get a." I apologize for swearing. But I said, "That's it. Just get a project and work with him again, because you're never going to find the perfect project." And then we mostly kept the ball rolling, except it stopped rolling a few times since then. But I try to keep the ball rolling with all my artists, even though that's, sometimes the ball stops and then it doesn't get rolling again for a while. But like I said, working with George, I realized, and the Not So Little Red series is the perfect example. I wanted it to be more, serious isn't the right word, but I didn't want it to be as jokey as what he'd made it. And so I didn't like the first issue a whole lot. And there was other issues with the first issue, like continuity issues. And he kind of went Rob Liefeld. And I'm just teasing. I don't mean any malice directed towards Rob Liefeld. But he's known to have bad continuity. And I'll just say, even in comics, continuity is tough, people. It happens with other artists besides, George. It happens a few times with Draco Whip. It happens a few times with everybody. It's hard to do continuity, even in comics, because real life generally tends to intervene. And you also to err as human, right? And so, I liked the idea of Not So Little Red, so I plowed forward and I did an issue 2, and I did an issue 3. But basically, working with, and it's the same as with Dragon Queen too. And once I decided to embrace the crazy, me and George had a lot more fun working together. Because like the same thing, like I think by issue 3 with Not So Little Red, I knew to just say, not write it serious, or maybe even issue 2. I said, just have fun with it, be silly. And it's the same kind of thing with my Dragon Queen series, which I have something like, I think we released the 14th standalone Dragon Queen issue this year, which is called Dragon Queen. It's the movie night one.
What's Dragon Queen? Like, why don't you tell the viewers what Dragon Queen's about? Because you saying a lot. I'm trying to keep in.
Yeah. Well, no, I just meant like so. Kiss of the Dragon Queen is, I think, it's next to Miss Liberty. She's the second longest running comic character I have, and she has 18 issues because I have a crossover series with her too, with George, and because we have Kiss of the Dragon Queen meets. We have actually, I think, Kicking G versus Kiss of the Dragon Queen. And so there's 18 total issues of Dragon Queen out there. And that's just... I wanted to do a serious martial arts story that had male muscle drain elements in it. That was basically based off of Bruce Lee's The Game of Death script, the original Game of Death script, where he goes in the tower and each floor he fights somebody. And also I think there was an episode of Dragon Ball that was similar, where Goku's climbing a tower and each floor he fights somebody new, and there's a boss on that floor. And same with the Bruce Lee movie, there was a boss on each floor. And actually on the Dragon Ball show, because this is the first Dragon Ball show, it's called the Iron Floor. And it's with like a strong bodybuilder dude. And that gave me the idea for the 4th issue of Kiss of the Dragon Queen. But my point is, I stopped taking myself as seriously. And I just said, you know what, just write it and have a good time. And so it's about issue 4, I started being silly for Dragon Queen. And then issue 5, I fully embraced the crazy. And issue 5 is my favorite issue out of the Dragon Queen series. And then it's the 4th issue in the crossover is my second favorite. And then probably, but like I said, it's once I embraced the crazy with George, now, because George used to say, you're way too serious. Your scripts are way too serious. I like to joke around. You never give me room to joke. Now he reads my scripts. He says, God, this is insane.
Yeah.
because it's so silly now. And so we're both having a lot more fun with the new scripts. And like I said, George was going through some tough times in his life. I can't, I don't know what, and I wouldn't share what. I just beyond the, he's going through some tough times. So that's why you only saw like 2 George Garay comics last year. But expect to see more George in the future. Not just, like I said, the new issue, the 14th issue of Dragon Queen, or the 4th issue of Not So Little Red. We're currently working on a sequel to Pillow Pinfall. And once again, that rectifies the there's no sex in Mighty Female Muscle Comix stories.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool, but I didn't really like get the dragon thing that you was talking about, the
Oh,
Dragon
okay.
Queen. I got what I got was Miss Liberty. I got and cooked and cooked and fucked. Sweet shit a little bit. That was kind of wild, but I had to block it. And then I got this nerd thing. I purchased last night, and it was kind of interesting.
That's one of my
So
first comics I ever wrote.
yeah, why don't you tell about because you already talked the concept of cucked and fucked. I was just showing a picture, but why don't you talk about the nerd girl, Miss Nerd
So,
Girl, how you
so the
came up with
Draco Whip is the artist for No More Little Miss Nerdy Girl. I couldn't have asked for a better artist than Draco Whip with working on that comic, and this was probably like my 5th or 6th commission because I worked with Zan Fander on a comic called The Arms Race. I worked with Femme Forte Fan on a comic called Powder Puffs, and which both the Powder Puffs and Arms Race are very similar stories. You got girls taking over the high school in the weight room, and so that's the kind of the motif for the comic. And then I worked with this other artist. I can't pronounce his name. It starts with an A. He did Russell Girl for me, and he kind of flaked out, and I got lucky that I got the art that I got the art with. But extremely talented artist, just once again, just couldn't handle his own personal demons, and but that was also very similar because Russell Girl was about a schoolgirl, high school girl, college freshman girl. You're a bit ambiguous, but except for I think Russell Girl is like high school. Same with I think the first Powder Puffs is high school. Now I make them college because I'm older, and I'm like, oh, that's creepy. Make them older. And so anyway, though, it's about a girl who starts off skinny. She wants to be big and strong. So like for no more Little Miss Nerdy Girl, she wants to be an athletic trainer, and this is actually set at a college. But I'm just going to say this story is kind of combined between a couple of stories that I did. Like I said, I took inspiration and I borrowed heavily from from Powder Puff, and I think the Arms Race, and I combined the 2 stories together to make No More Little Miss Nerdy Girl. And like I said, I would probably shudder at reading the script of it now. But like I said, I couldn't have asked for a better artist than Draco Whip because this was the first time I ever worked with Draco Whip. He knocked it out of the park. He did an amazing job. I still think this is one of all around. This is the epitome of a Mighty Female Muscle Comix story. It's like, how Jean-Claude Van Damme, he did Kickboxer, he did Bloodsport, he did Lionheart, he did The Quest, those are all the same film, Those are all the same film. And I love all of those films. I'm not making fun of I don't love The Quest. But I love all of those films with the exception of The Quest. But they're the same damn film. So there is a criticism that, it's like, well, you're making the same story over again, because this could be said that it's, powder puffs, but just slightly different, and that's fine. Um, and I stand, and yes, because generally, like when I get an idea in my head, I like to play it out until I feel like I executed it enough. And so I knew that I knew I could do the idea better. I really wanted to do more of a weight room takeover. But like I said, this is so. And no more little Miss, and no more Little Miss Nerdy Girl. The main character, she wants to be an athletic trainer, and she's very smart, and she has great ideas about how to increase muscle mass and training and how to optimize it. Well, the jerks that are jocks, and basically every one of my comic always has a jerky jock. You just need to, just not only for alliteration's sake, but I just need them to be the antagonist. And so they don't want her. They're like, what do you know about lifting weights? You're a little nerdy girl. And so then they belittle her, both physically and mentally. And then she wants revenge. So she says, well, if they're not going to take my ideas seriously, I'll show them. And so then she just starts working out, and she grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And she rescues one of the popular girls who was getting assaulted at night. And she rescues that girl. Fun fact, it wasn't originally supposed to be one of the guys that assaulted her, but my co-writer thought it looked like the guy, and so I said, well, it looks close enough, so sure, fine. But it was never originally meant to be like that, but he changed, and I think that was a change for the better. And then slowly, all the girls muscle up, and they become stronger and more muscular than the boys. And the boys realize that they can't rule the school, the college, they're not the big men on campus anymore, that they're just little next to all the girls and their mighty female muscles. And so that's the story in a nutshell. And that, like I said, that's the kind of, like I said, the epitome of any Mighty Female Muscle Comix story. And I kind of used that blueprint for a lot of the stories. But it's a lot of fun because you get some outlifting, the girls out muscling and outlifting the boys in the weight room. You get to see some of the social changes where the boys think they could demand their F's be turned to A's from the teacher, but the teacher's now buff and she's not taking their crap anymore, and that they can't bully the girls in the weight room or the classrooms anymore. And like I said, just all of the changes around campus. I will say one of my flaws with the story, though, was I have the protagonist of the story, and she disappears during the main football scene. And that was... I know what I was going for at the time, because I was like, well, she's not a cheerleader. I want the cheerleaders to take on the football team. And I was like, only the cheerleaders will take on the boys' football team, and she doesn't want to do that. She never wanted to play football. So if I rewrote that story now, I would make the change where she would have then joined in on the football game and joined in on the fun. But besides that minor thing, I thought it was a heck of a lot of fun, and I do think it's one of the best comics I still ever wrote. And I have such a debt of just good fortune to have worked with Draco Whip on that comic, because I don't know how many comics I've done with Draco Whip. I think it's well over 40 now, and I hope to do another 40 with Draco Whip. And like I said, I mean, he's made some of the best comics I've ever... he's illustrated some of the best comics I've ever written and made because of him. And when Draco Whip's on, it starts amazing.
Do you get female? I got two questions. Do you get female writers, and do you have female readers like respond to you or anything like that? I don't know, just asking.
Well, so I don't know if I have any female readers. I would say if I do have female readers, it would be less than 10% of my readership would be female. I mean, comics in general, is mostly men reading comics, and then so you do skew. So then, like I said, just speaking from the available marketplace, if very few, if less women read comics than men, then I'm going to have even less fans. But then also coupled with that, this isn't their probably cup of tea. So I don't know. I mean, I would imagine, yes, there are some women out there who read my comics. I don't know of any that do. I mean, if anyone want to drop me a line, and if you like the comics, I'm always grateful to hear if people like the comics. And then on, but